You see an Uber on almost every street corner, right? It's a verb, a household name, a company that totally changed how we get around. But what if I told you that this global giant, valued at over $100 billion, has lost more money than any startup in history? We're talking over $20 billion burned. How is that even possible? How can a company be so successful and yet so unprofitable? Today, we're diving deep into the wild, expensive, and cutthroat story of Uber's quest for global domination. And we'll uncover the real price of putting the world in the backseat of their cars. It all started in 2008. The story goes that co-founders Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp were stranded in Paris, unable to hail a cab. That frustration sparked a revolutionary idea. What if you could summon a car with a single tap on your phone? In 2010, Uber Cab launched in San Francisco. It was a luxury black car service, a simple, elegant solution for a privileged few. But Kalanick had bigger, much bigger, ambitions. He didn't just want to serve the wealthy, he wanted to replace every taxi, and eventually, every personal car in every city on Earth. This vision required one thing above all else: growth at any cost. Uber's strategy was a masterclass in aggressive expansion. They used a playbook: enter a new city, often without permission, offer massive subsidies to both riders and drivers to undercut local taxi services, and fight the regulators later. This ask for forgiveness, not permission approach was incredibly effective. Riders loved the cheap fares and convenience. Drivers, initially, loved the flexible income and bonuses. Uber spread like wildfire, city by city, country by country. To fuel this fire, Uber needed cash. A lot of it. Venture capitalists lined up, pouring billions into the company. They weren't investing in profits, they were investing in the dream of a global monopoly. The idea was simple: kill the competition, become the only game in town. And then, once everyone is dependent on Uber, you can raise prices and finally turn a profit. This is the classic Silicon Valley blitzscaling model, but on an unprecedented scale. Uber wasn't just competing with local taxi companies, it was fighting a global war on multiple fronts. In the United States, their main rival was Lyft. The two companies engaged in a brutal price war, burning through billions in a fight for market share. They subsidized rides so heavily that for years, every time you took an Uber or a Lyft, the company was actually losing money on your trip. You, the rider, were getting a venture capital funded discount. It was a race to the bottom, a test of who could bleed cash the longest. But the American battle was just a skirmish compared to the war in China. In 2014, Uber entered the Chinese market, ready to conquer it. What they found was a formidable opponent, Didi Chuxing. Didi, backed by local tech giants Alibaba and Tencent, was not going down without a fight. What followed was one of the most expensive corporate battles in history. Both companies spent billions on subsidies. At peak, Uber was losing over $1 billion a year in China alone. Drivers were creating fake rides to collect bonuses, and the market became a chaotic, cash-burning frenzy. Kalanick was determined to win, but the losses were unsustainable. In 2016, Uber waved the white flag. They sold their China operations to Didi in exchange for a stake in the company. It was a major defeat, a clear sign that global domination wouldn't be so easy. The same story played out across the globe. In Southeast Asia, they battled Grab. In Russia, they fought Yandex. In India, it was Ola. Time and time again, Uber would enter a market, burn billions, and eventually either retreat or merge with the local champion. Each retreat was a hit to their narrative of inevitable global conquest. The dream of a single, worldwide ride-hailing monopoly was crumbling. While Uber was fighting these external wars, it was also battling fires internally. The company's growth at all cost culture, championed by Travis Kalanick, had a dark side. A series of scandals erupted in 2017, from accusations of a toxic, sexist work environment to a program called Greyball used to deceive law enforcement. The public backlash was immense, leading to the #DeleteUber movement and ultimately the ousting of Kalanick as CEO. The board brought in a new CEO, Derek Khosrowshahi, to clean up the mess. His mission was completely different from Kalanick's. It wasn't about aggressive expansion anymore. It was about something Uber had ignored for nearly a decade: profitability. Khosrowshahi's strategy was one of retreat and rationalization. He continued pulling Uber out of money-losing markets, selling off divisions, and focusing on the core markets where they had a strong or leading position. He also diversified. Uber realized that just moving people wasn't enough. They had already launched Uber Eats in 2014, and it turned out to be a secret weapon. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when the ride-hailing business collapsed servicios, Uber Eats exploded. Food delivery became a lifeline for the company, generating huge revenues and showing a path to profitability that didn't rely solely on rides. This pivot was crucial. Uber was no longer just a taxi company, it was a logistics platform. Under this new leadership, Uber finally went public in 2019. But the IPO was a disappointment. Wall Street was skeptical. They saw the massive losses, the failed global strategy, and the intense competition. The big question remained, could this company ever actually make money? For the first few years as a public company, the answer was no. The losses continued to pile up. So, where does that leave Uber today? After years of bleeding cash, the company finally achieved its first full year of operating profit in 2023. A monumental milestone. How did they do it? It was a combination of factors. Khosrow Shahi's cost-cutting and strategic retreats played a huge part. The explosive growth of the high-margin Uber Eats business was another. They also focused on new ventures like Uber Freight, a platform connecting truck drivers with shipping companies. And yes, prices for rides have gone up. The era of a heavily subsidized Uber ride is largely over. The company is also betting big on the future. They're investing heavily in advertising on their platform and developing a lucrative membership program, Uber One, which bundles perks for both rides and eats. The goal is to transform Uber from a simple utility into a platform you interact with daily, locking you into their ecosystem. But the challenges are far from over. The fundamental economics of ride-hailing are still tough. They face constant regulatory battles over driver classification. Are drivers independent contractors or employees? An employee model would dramatically increase costs and could shatter their business model. Competition is still fierce, not just from Lyft, but from local taxi services, public transit, and even e-scooter companies. The story of Uber is a fascinating case study. It's a story of ambition, of a revolutionary idea that changed the world but came at an astronomical cost. They burned through more than $20 billion chasing a dream of monopoly, a dream that proved impossible. They fought, they lost, they retreated, and they adapted. The Uber of today is a leaner, more disciplined, and more diversified company than the brash startup it once was. It may never achieve the total global domination Travis Kalanick envisioned, but it has survived its own expensive war and is finally, after more than a decade, on a path to proving its critics wrong. The question now is, can they sustain it? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching. If you found this look into Uber's business strategy interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the companies that shape our world. See you in the next one.